What is going on, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video. We're here for another Ring of Honor television review. This is the 8th one we've done. Another loaded episode. I do want to put a little disclaimer. Last week I was complaining about the little bar. I'm like, it was very small. Could not. They fixed it this week, so I had to put that disclaimer out. Thank you for fixing it. And let's get right into this review. The first matchup, speaking of last week, we saw Mike Bennett versus Darius Martin, and then it ended in a DQ, and Accident Andretti saved the day, setting up the tag team match that kicked off this week's episode. Martin and Taven start the match off, but they quickly tag out, and the Kingdom have Martin in their corner for a good majority of the beginning half of the matchup. We see dives to the outside from everyone but Bennett. Once he gets back in the ring, the Kingdom double team on Andretti, who had tagged in once the dives had took place. Eventually, Andretti fights him off and is able to get a tag. We see the duo of Andretti and Martin hit a springboard and German suplex combination. But then they think they have the advantage, but Maria distracts the referee, and by virtue them and the Kingdom win the matchup by hitting the Proton Pack. So it's a very quick matchup to start off this episode. Next, we get Willow Nightingale versus Robin Renegade, which she has her sister, who did not come out to the ring with her, which obviously they're a tag team, and it kind of was like a made you think moment, but it would be explained later on. It's very back and forth early in the match, with the first half of the match being rest holds, and the second half of the match being a chop and slap exchange. Willow is able to hit a spinebuster and a bounce, period, but is not able to get the pin off of that. They attempt to do the twin magic spot, which I said, like her sister went out there. Charlotte Renegade tries to get into the ring, but the referee notices it and does not let it happen. And Willow eventually wins after she is rolled up and then reverses it into her own pin attempt. And then after the match, the Renegade twins attack Willow. And that's kind of, that was that. Next, we get a very quick matchup of Jah-C, Jah-C versus Lance Archer. Like I said, this is a quick matchup. Lance drags him to the ring like he normally does some of his opponents, and dominates the matchups and wins with a lariat. Then we get another quick matchup of Brian Cage versus Joey Jet. The crowd is very behind Jet, who is trying to put up a fight in this match. I couldn't read what I wrote. But Cage tosses around a majority of this matchup. Jet reverses several lariat attempts by Cage with big boots and eventually hits him with a flatliner, but it was not enough, and Cage wins with a lariat and F5. Next, we get a proving ground matchup. Athena, who wrestles almost every week on the show, so I'm going to give her a round of applause for that, because like I said, dominant champion. Is she the best part of Ring of Honor? She's definitely up there, because like I said, she's been consistent and putting on great matchups. Like I said, this is a proving ground matchup. Athena versus Heather Reckless. Reckless shows fire early on with forearm attempts and a pin attempt, but it is nothing. Athena is aggressive and throws her on the outside, and then throws her into the barricade several times while out there. Athena hits several power bombs while in the ring and wins, following with a crossface. So it's very, out of all the matchups we've seen with Athena, this is a very quick one. Get a tag team matchup of Lee Johnson and Cole Carter, who apparently are no longer part of the factory with QT Marshall. They've done a very terrible job of telling that on AEW TV. Like I said, I do not watch Dark Elevation, because then my mind would be spinning, because that's way too much wrestling. But I guess I could have put two and two together, because in the like promo package of QT Marshall and Powerhouse Hobbs, they haven't been there, so they're not a part of the... Like, on commentary, they say they're not in the factory anymore, which is... that is that. It's not the end of the world. The matchup starts with... Lee Johnson and Cole Carter versus Alex Reynolds and John Silver of the Dark Order. I don't remember if I said their names or not, so there we go with that. Silver and Johnson start the matchup, but quickly tag out, and Johnson and Carter double team Reynolds while in their corner. Eventually, Silver tags in and reverses a double team move by Johnson and Carter, leading to the Dark Order winning with a stunner and German suplex combination. It's a very quick matchup. They do mention several times the Righteous and how they're dealing with Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, but they did not come out to tease Alex Reynolds and John Silver. Turning the page, our next matchup, Penta El Cerro Miedo versus Nick Camarado. Penta attempts to do the spot with his glove, or takes the gloves off and shows him, but Nick Camarado does not let that happen. and Nick dominates the early portion of the match, including a very powerful spear. But that does not hold up for long as Penta snaps Nick's arm, not once, but twice on each arm, and it's very funny, but Penta wins, and it's very smart. I said funny. It's not funny. It is to me. It's funny and smart because he does the arm breaker on both sides, so he pins him, and Nick can't raise either shoulder up to kick out of it, and that is how Penta won this matchup. Now, these next matchups were very legit and very good. Now, I'm going to give y'all a little behind the scenes. So I watch ROH on my TV via my Xbox. Shout out Xbox. And on my computer, I have up on, because ROH each week they post on their Instagram the matchups that are taking place. And I guess on Instagram, the most you could post is 10 photos. And so I'll always go through like, all right, this is what's going to happen tonight. I actually should start now reading the description because this matchup was not on the post. Because like I said, I guess there's the limit is 10. This is a very good matchup. You would think they would post the photo. So, it was Konsuke Takeshita versus Lee Moriarty. Like I said, it was a very good matchup. Very fast-paced early on, including Takeshita attempting the Blue Thunder Bomb several times. Moriarty reverses it by targeting his arm. Moriarty then has the advantage at that point. Takeshita fights back with forearms, and Moriarty hits a top rope suplex, a superplex. Takeshita hits the Blue Thunder Bomb then for a 2 count. Moriarty attempts a German suplex and crossface combo, but is both reversed several times with several pin attempts on the ground. Moriarty reverses the Chaos Theory with a lariat and again targets the arm, but Takeshita hits him with a forearm and running knee combination to win the matchup. Now this next matchup, because like I said, they taped this last week before and after Dynamite, and so I was seeing a lot of tweets and hearing a lot about this matchup. So now we're finally get to see the matchup of El Hijo del Vikingo. I knew I was missing a word. Versus Gringo Loco. And like I said, this was not for the championship. I thought it was, but it wasn't. It was not on the graphic. That's besides the point. And I am giving a big disclaimer. My description of this matchup is not going to do it justice. So if you want to experience the full experience, which I guess you should do this for every matchup, but this matchup in particular, you should go out of your way to check it out. So, El Hijo del Vikingo versus Gringo Loco. Vikingo stands on Loco's shoulders for a Hurricane Rana, and this is like 10 seconds into the matchup. Loco moves out of the way of a Tope Suicida and follows it with a dive of his own to the outside. Vikingo moves out of the way of a moonsault. Gringo hits a C4 off the top rope and soon reverses a springboard into a Michinoku driver, which I approve of. Vikingo hits a Hurricane Rana off the top rope and also on the outside, which this is where I noted, I made a little note. I'm not going to describe this match very well. Check it out on your own. Once he gets back in the ring, Vikingo hits a corkscrew 450 and a twisting moonsault to the outside. Gringo then body slams Vikingo off of the top rope. Vikingo hits a spinning reverse Hurricane Rana and wins by hitting running knees and a 630. Very crazy matchup. Very good matchup. And like I said, I recommend checking it out because my description of this match does not do it justice. And I'm not an expert. I'm not a booker. I definitely don't think they should have followed this up with a matchup afterwards just because there's like a crazy rush that you're going through. They followed up with a matchup that honestly I forgot happened. Again, I told y'all, I looked through the match card. I was like, oh, I guess it's time for the main event. It's not time for the main event. We got one more matchup before the actual main event of Ren Jones and Logan Lynch versus the Iron Savages, who used to be known as Bear Country, Boulder and Bronson. And it was a very quick matchup. Boulder and Ren start the matchup, but that does not matter after all because then they bring in his partner, which is Logan Lynch, and the Iron Savages dominate and double team moves onto their opponent several times, and the matchup ends once Boulder has Bronson on his shoulders, and then he pushes him off onto their opponents. Then we have the main event, TV title match, Samoa Joe versus Colt Cabana. Colt Cabana earlier in the night cut a promo saying that he's been part of Ring of Honor's history before, and in its history, he's faced Samoa Joe several times, and all those times involved a championship. And he lost to him when he challenged him for the world title. He lost to him when he challenged for the pure title. Now he's doing it for the TV championship, and hopefully he can be successful this time around. We get a collar and elbow tie-up to start the matchup, but after that, Joe blasts Cabana and has the advantage. Joe attempts to hit a muscle buster, but Cabana fights off with an elbow several times, and he then hits a flying apple / asshole, whatever you prefer. But Joe gets his knees up for a Colt Cabana moonsault, and Joe wins with a coquina clutch. Like I said, for a TV title matchup with 2 big stars, hella quick matchup. Y'all thought, this is quick. Y'all thought I didn't write notes. No, it was a quick matchup. That is it for this week's episode of Ring of Honor Television. Again, it's very weird because some of these weeks have been 2 hours long. This hour is an hour 40. And maybe I'm just being a time lord like Robert Williams. But it's like there's 11 matches this week and it went an hour 40. I guess because they're in front of the AEW crowd and they don't want to be there all night, they make it quicker, which I guess that makes sense. So it is what it is. So I'm trying to think. I definitely already read the spoilers for next week. I want to be 100% honest with you. I don't remember crap from the spoilers. So I was like, well, we're going to see this next week, but I'll wait until next week to talk about that then. So thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the future.